Hi everybody. Before I start this video, I'd first like to give my deepest sympathy to the family and friends of Eric Garner, who we witnessed the last moments of his life on this video, and also to all the people who've suffered police brutality and or lost relatives and friends through the same. So I'm just going to play you this short video.
Every time you see me, you wanna mess with me. I'm tired of it. It stops today.
This guy right here is forcibly trying to lock somebody up for breaking up a fight.
Everybody standing here, they told you I didn't do nothing.
A fight actually broke out, and Eric jumped up and separated the fight, told him to go across the street. The officers arrived on the scene, basically let the two guys that were fighting walk off, and kept all their attention on Eric.
My business, please just leave me alone. I told you the last time, please just leave me alone. Take you left for what? I didn't show anything. I did nothing. We sitting here the whole time, minding our business. What you told you? You watch me do what? Who did I sell cigarette to? To whom?
How can you say you see me sell a cigarette and all I did was just break up a fight?
Which means doesn't matter because you said I did it, I did it. Well, I did it. My bag, I don't got no bag.
From there, 2 seconds later, the sirens were heard. Well, when he grabbed him by his neck, he pulled back to try to bring him to the ground.
Black, touch me. Gave us a bag and gave us shit.
And within all that time, the guy was still around his neck.
Put your hand behind your back. I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Then he got up, pushed his face into the floor twice, and then put his knee on top of his face while Eric was telling him he couldn't breathe. And I seen his eyes roll back, and he was foaming from the mouth, and I knew he was gone from there.
Oh, they got it.
I kept telling them, trying to push the issue, like put an oxygen mask on him. And all they did was leave the cuffs on him and search him. And I felt that they treated him wrong, even after the fact that they had him contained.
You watch everything. You know everything. And jumped out at him for breaking up a fight.
He was like the neighborhood dad. Everybody loved him. The old people, young people. They're not supposed to put people in chokeholds.
Shut the f*** up!
So, there we have the evidence that really speaks for itself. We saw Eric Garner was innocent, really, of any crime, and, as he said, stated to the police he'd broken a fight up, and then he was physically assaulted. The moment those police officers laid hands on him, he was physically assaulted. He was not formally charged or formally read his rights, and then they proceeded to ignore his pleas when he said he couldn't breathe, and then he died. So at the very least, just by the video evidence alone, the video footage alone, that incident was at the very least manslaughter. So how those police officers walked away without being found guilty in a court of law of any crime against that man is really incredible in a country that has got a written law, a written constitution. And it is, I find it very serious. As a British citizen, I live in Britain, and everything that happens in America a few years later is happening in Britain. And, you know, there's been a lot of people in America dying, over 5,000 civilians killed since 9/11 at police hands. And a lot of these people, most of them, the massive, huge majority, really didn't need that level of force used against them. And a lot of them are just innocent people, bystanders, children shot in bed. An elderly man was shot in bed because police broke into the wrong house. Recently, just in the last month, a 12-year-old boy in America was shot in a park by police officers, and his crime was for playing with his toy gun, his BB gun. And again, there's video evidence of footage of that, and it shows the boy throwing himself on the ground as the police car pulls up, and then next minute he's shot dead. So it's very serious, very worrying, and we have to ask ourselves why is this happening? Why are so many people, innocent people, and this is a site documenting the victims of police violence in the States, and we have just so many people. Some of them have been killed by tasers, and we have to ask ourselves, what are these tasers, and really, are they lawful in a free society? Because they are tantamount to whips, really. Because in the Victorian period, British police used to walk around with whips, and then they were replaced by batons, and now they've been replaced by tasers. And the thing is that these tasers do kill people, and they are a form of on-the-spot punishment. Now, in a system of law where you've got the right to arrest and then trial by jury before you suffer any type of punishment other than physical arrest and being read your rights, then basically the police are now empowered to just issue out punishment on the streets as they just go about tasering people. And really, I think they should be banned, because, children have died through police tasers, and elderly people with heart conditions, and how can a police officer know just by looking at somebody whether or not they've got a heart condition? And half the time these tasers are used, again, they're used unnecessarily. So, it's an issue to be addressed as well as the police shooting. So now we have to ask ourselves, who are the police actually serving? So if we go back to November 2011, and we look at the huge Wall Street protests that were happening then, and we saw that it was a largely peaceful protest that was made. Police started arresting protesters. They started spraying the crowds with pepper spray, and just generally behaving quite brutally towards the protesters, until eventually it was all broken up. Now, while this was all going on, and we have to ask ourselves again, why was there this huge Occupy Wall Street? And it was in response to top bankers who basically collapsed the economy with their massive banking fraud and theft. And it's well documented. And again, Global Research, very good website. I will leave all the links of everything I show you today. And, you know, one thing the American government has not done is to prosecute the largest banks in the world for supporting drug cartels by washing billions of dollars of their blood-stained money. So we've got HSBC, Western Union, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase and Company, Citigroup, Wachovia, amongst many others, who've all failed to comply with American anti-money laundering laws. So, you know, you're talking serious crime. And if we go look at what's happened to Eric Garner, so we find that, you know, he was arrested and lost his life in the process because he was accused of selling a cigarette. He was accused of selling a cigarette. And the only reason why the police were there was because there was a fight and he broke it up. Right. So he is dead and the whole community have lost a friend, a loved one. Okay. But meanwhile, these people are doing this, you know, and nothing at all is done. So, you know, top bankers evaded financial crisis justice and will never be prosecuted for their crimes. Across the world, people have been asking why none of America's top bankers went to jail for the crimes that caused the 2008 financial crisis. A leading New York judge now provides disturbing answers and underscores that none of the key bankers who caused the crisis will ever be criminally prosecuted. You know, you're talking not just drugs money laundering, but we're talking about fraud. You know, people using inside information basically to rob people, to destroy small businesses. The banking system has been operating like some kind of monster that just devours people's lives, because money in a financial system is life. If I took away somebody's money, all their income, they are going to end up homeless on the street with nothing to eat, because you cannot eat in a system that is run purely on money. And that was why welfare was created in the first place, because, you know, people have a right to live. This planet supports life, and every creature that's born on this planet has got a right to live. So again, we have this one from The Guardian, which is a British newspaper, how a big US bank laundered billions from Mexico's murderous drugs gangs. And again, you know, we have this situation because we have prohibition. And really, you know, America and the world should have learned from prohibition of the 1920s that just caused more crime than it actually saved, you know. So what is the point? Because the amount of money and the corruption, the levels of corruption that prohibition actually supports is actually far, far worse than the drugs inflict on humanity. And in fact, more people seem to be suffering from use of drugs. There's more drug abuse now under prohibition than there ever was before they were all criminalised. So, you know, I mean, this law is supposed to be here to protect us, but we find that no, it isn't protecting us. It's supporting murderous drugs gangs and also providing, you know, loads of illicit money to these huge big bankers that then collapse the whole banking system. So I think it's quite important to notice. So we've got a group of protesters here who are basically honouring their civil duty under the Constitution, which is to rise up against tyranny and corruption in government and any institutions that are controlling their society and robbing them of their rights. That's their lawful duty to do that. So these people are complying with their lawful duty, and the police are acting on behalf of the bankers. They are actually protecting the criminals. Okay. So they're protecting the criminals. So then we have to look at the NYPD. So while this is going on, okay, so don't forget, we've got November. This was reported. And in October, just as the first protests start to begin, the NYPD, now sponsored by Wall Street, financial firms have given millions of dollars to the department, raising the ire of Occupy Wall Street protesters. So they gave a massive gift, this is called a gift, of $4.6 million to the New York City Police Foundation in the form of money, patrol car laptops, security monitoring software and other tech resources. I wonder if they included pepper spray as well. The donation was given starting late last year and was completed by spring 2011. So it was obviously not made in response to the Wall Street protests. Come on. I mean, these guys knew. They knew that people were getting angry. People were getting angry a long time before you actually saw people camping outside Wall Street. So, what do? You're in a game, because these people are playing a game, these bankers. They're playing a game. They're playing a money game, and we know damn well they're all about future projections, aren't they? They're always looking forward into something. So they knew that there was going to be a massive public backlash, because at the end of the day, you can't just strip billions of dollars out of an economy and not expect people to show some kind of reaction to that. So this gift, in the context of crime, and this isn't a conspiracy theory, is it? It's not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy fact. It's a fact that the banks were all involved with each other in laundering money, huge fraud, and even outright theft of public and government, private public accounts, and also public government money. Okay. And so then the police accept this huge gift, okay, from JP Morgan, who are one of the main criminals who they should be investigating. They should have been investigating JP Morgan, okay? But no, instead they're accepting a 4.6 million gift. And that is proof, I think, conclusive proof of bribery. And it is a felony. It's a felony, which means a serious crime to bribe an officer of the law. Never mind a whole police department. So, if we go to Jesse Ventura, and he talks about the 9/11 cover-up, and he's one of the few politicians in America who really looks at the facts of what is going on in the world and actually dares to speak out, So this report from Alex Jones: confirmed sources in the Nigerian government tell us, in order to keep former Vice President Cheney out of prison for crimes involving Nigeria, 500 million in bribes have been promised, negotiated by former President George H.W. Bush. Now, only one day later, Cheney faces possible charges, so many charges they can only be imagined, for planning the Pentagon attack on 9/11. Okay. And, you know, there's a video here, but look, you go to play it. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. That's strange, isn't it? So, Ventura cites in an interview with a 9/11 commissioner a possible motive for the Pentagon attack being included with attacks on the World Trade Center. 2.3 trillion US dollars had disappeared only the day before. Okay, and the next day, that the area of the Pentagon hit by the missile contained all records of this missing money. And America needs to think about that. Because you know $2.3 trillion, that is a lot of money. And as I say, I've said in a previous video, Britain owes a debt of £1.27 trillion. And it's costing us £1 billion a week in interest to pay that off, the whole nation. Okay? And so you think, America, what you lost there, what's just been gone away, while people are being killed for suspected of selling a cigarette. And you do have to look at that, because it is so serious. And I do believe that the two are absolutely related, that this persecution against the poorest, most vulnerable people, and really, I know it isn't just the poor, I'll tell you, it's middle class, it's anybody who stands up for their rights. It's just that the police assume that most rich people couldn't give a shite, you know what I mean? They just assume that, yeah, you know, you're in on the game, aren't you? So this AIG and banking crisis linked to CIA 9/11 financial fraud and covert brainwashing through the media. So it's a well-known fact. Look, did you know that Building 7 contained enormous amounts of evidence on the Bush administration's involvement with Enron, illegal Wall Street CIA operations and the current banking crisis? This was the headquarters for investigations which could have brought the Bush administration down, but conveniently, 9/11's cover-up of this major story saved them from major public scrutiny. Building 7 came down. Building 7 just came down. And there's still, you know, no evidence. And I've done a previous video about that. About what's happened on 9/11 and relating it to the banking crisis. So you've got the Twin Towers, Building 7 and the Pentagon, all the financial departments, all just obliterated on 9/11. Okay. So, you know, these are facts. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. And we've got no evidence now because it blew up. We've got no evidence what happened to the Pentagon money because it blew up. So it's no wonder, is it, that you see this, and here's Bill Mayer.
Finally, new rule, now that violent crime is at a 40-year low, someone has to explain why your local police department has gone from this to this. Has anybody here tonight ever heard of Doraville, Georgia? Me neither. But it's a town of 8,000 people, and they have their own tank. So does Nixa, Missouri, and Justice, Illinois. What these small towns and hundreds just like them have in common, besides a refreshing lack of hipsters, is that they, and big cities too, have been gifted by the Pentagon with tons of government surplus war equipment, fresh from our glorious victories in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, I understand it's a dangerous world out there, and threats have changed. When I was a kid, there was no such thing as Shia LaBeouf. But we don't need to fill our streets with any more horrifying death machines when we've already got GM.
So, I mean, just look at that. That is supposed to be acceptable in a free society. And this is Al-Qaeda, isn't it? This is Al-Qaeda. We know that Al-Qaeda is some kind of, boogeyman that they've created themselves to scare us all with, and in order to fill our streets with this. And as I say, what happens in America is going to be coming to Britain as well. I mean, we've already got tasers in Britain. People have died from being tasered in Britain. And the only hope, and people have complained extensively about the Ferguson riots, but I think, what else can people do? People are going to end up rioting, especially the poorest people who've got nothing at all to lose. What have they got to lose if they're going to be killed? Because even at age 12 years old, because they've got a BB gun, or because, they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're going to have mass public protests, you're going to have riots. And a lot of these riots, they are instigated by agent provocateurs, we know that has been well documented. But, once they've been instigated, people just follow. It becomes like a herd mentality. And that's what I think the police are also becoming victims of, and they're on the front line for brainwashing. They're being brainwashed into an ethos of thought, of approach, of consciousness. It's us and them, And they're being brainwashed into operating into a certain way. And obviously they're recruiting people of a particular psychology. We know they're out there, people with imbalanced psychologies, psychopaths, sadists, they're all going to rush to get a job like this, aren't they? People who want to have power over other people, racists, homophobic, sexists, that this is going to attract them like a magnet. So it is up really to the, I would say, again, the professional people of America and Britain as well, and every country in the world where this is starting to happen, which it seems to be happening in every country. We all need to stand up and say no, because this kind of violence, it just breeds more violence. And we are moving to, a Nazi-type society. And my grandfather sacrificed his life in World War II, and I know that my grandparents did not suffer everything they suffered in order for the whole world to end up being governed by a Nazi mentality. So I please implore, especially the professional people of America, especially the justice of America, you are going to have to get up and speak out for the people. Otherwise, expect mass insurrection, because I tell you, no, people aren't going to tolerate it for much longer. So you do have to address this situation, because it's going to get worse. Austerity is going to get worse. The debt is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like a black hole that's waiting to swallow up all sense of reason and sanity in order to impose a gridlock on human consciousness forever. So we have to think about life itself. Why are we here? Are we here just to serve a banking system? I mean, yes, just this week I've made a video about Fukushima, corporate vandalism on a huge scale. It's destroyed the Pacific Ocean. So please do something to save our planet, because our planet is not being threatened by ordinary people going about their daily lives who just want to raise families and make a living. Good, honest people. Our planet is being destroyed by massive corporations who've got no care or conscience except how much money they are going to earn. And we're being told they're too big to prosecute, so they're just free to do what they like, aren't they? And impose things on us like nuclear power when they've got nothing to deal with 3 melt-throughs, not even 1 melt-through. They've got nothing at all to deal with that. And now we're dealing with 3 melt-throughs. You know, who produces something like nuclear power when you can't deal with the melt-through except a big corporation and these bankers? These bankers are funding those things and paying our politicians to accept them and to convince people and to tell us, oh, they'll bring you jobs and, you know, starve a nation of jobs and then offer them nuclear power. Please, 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 please wake up to what is going on and, you know, give the people some law. Let's have law, let's have sanity, let's have reason, let's have goodness. Surely there is another way.